Hey y'all, and welcome back to my channel, Living Life with Leticia. So today we are going to get straight into our devotion, and then we are still talking about narcissist people. Morning prayer says, "Now the God of patience and consolation grant you to be like-minded one toward another according to Jesus Christ." And that was Romans 15:5. God gives us endurance because he is patient with us. God grants us encouragement through his kindness and conciliation. And just as he bears patiently with us through our growth, our shortcomings, and our doubts, he invites us to show that same patient consolation to others. When we do, growth and love abound, not only in others, but in us as well. Our prayer today is, Lord, thank you for your patience in dealing with me. You have forgiven me over and over and over again, and I thank you, Lord. And you continue to guide me through my doubts, my confusion, my excuses, my reasons, my stupidness, my doing the same thing again and again. You have continued to guide me by your spirit. Lord, I just ask you to grant me the patience and compassion to endure with my brothers and my sisters, just like you do with me, Lord, so that through me, they might also experience the fullness of your kindness. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. All right, so thank you guys for coming back. I hope you like, share, and subscribe to my channel. I need your help. All right, but we are going to dive right into the best way to put a narcissist in their place. And this is just a reading. This is something that I've come upon, and apparently a lot of people got a lot of questions about narcissists, narcissism, narcissistic people, and and they out here. So we just want to be one up, because they're not going to ever say, I'm a narcissist, help me. They're not going to say that. So we're going to have to just recognize it for them and say, hey, come on, you need some help, because you're going to run everybody away. Well, we're never going to run out of topics. So let's just start with where we were going to go to, which is the best way to put narcissists in their place. Bear with me and just listen up, because it's important, guys. It really is. After you've had a great deal of exposure to a strongly narcissistic person, there's going to be a thought that comes in your mind. It says, I don't want to be attached to this individual. I'm getting really tired of what I'm having to deal with. I need to put that person in their place. Okay. You know, when you're at that place, I get it. I understand it. You want to send a message that says you can't mess with me in the way that you think that you can and should get away with. The biggest mistakes that people can make when they're at this place of trying to put a narcissist in their place is they can actually mirror back narcissistic characteristics. Or if the narcissist is highly argumentative, they can become argumentative in reverse. If they show bitterness or stubbornness, they can be bitter and stubborn in reverse. What that says is that the individual is doing nothing more than entering into a codependent narcissistic dance. Thinking, well, I suppose that's always an option. You can do that. It's not going to get you anywhere good. This means that you would be defined by the narcissist, just a little more than a reactor, and that person is setting your pace. You would be defined by your own counter contempt, your own counter anger, your own counter bitterness. And I'm thinking of myself, I don't want to go down that path. That's who they are. But that's not going to be who I am. I can do better, and I can be better. In today's topic, we're going to share with you the number one way to put narcissists in their place. And hint, it does not involve beating them at their game. Examples of narcissistic behavior. Some examples of narcissistic behavior include inflating one's own accomplishments to gain praise, ignoring other people's feelings, and deliberately taking credit for someone else's work. Narcissistic behavior is in a relationship can result in a person focusing on their own wants and needs at the expense of others. They may expect a lot from others, but give little in return or believe they are superior to their partner. Anyone can behave in a narcissistic way occasionally. This behavior is also developmentally typical of young children who tend to focus on themselves. However, a pattern of narcissistic behavior in adolescence or adulthood can be very damaging to relationships. Extreme and pervasive narcissistic behavior could also be a sign of narcissistic personality disorder, which is NPD. We talked about that earlier, which is a mental health condition. What is a narcissistic behavior? Narcissism refers to a sense of superiority or entitlement. People with narcissistic tendencies tend to think they are inherently better than others in some way. This could be as an individual or as part of a group. Narcissistic behavior reinforces these beliefs. For example, a person may use their relationship to bolster self-esteem and gain admiration from their peers, reinforcing that they are desirable. This is different from self-love, as true self-love does not require external validation from other people. Narcissistic behavior exists on a spectrum. Milder behaviors may not affect relationships much, while more severe behaviors can involve abuse and control. When narcissistic behavior becomes a pattern, it can cause significant harm. Narcissism versus NPD. Some people with extreme narcissism have NPD. This is a mental health condition where narcissistic beliefs and behavior persist long-term and are pervasive across all areas of life. This includes relationships. People with NPD often pursue relationships that are self-serving, using others to get what they want, which can result in abuse or aggression. Individuals with NPD have difficulty maintaining relationships as a result. People with NPD typically have a grandiose sense of self-importance, feel they are special and expect special treatment, deliberately manipulate or exploit others for personal gain, develop tactics to conceal or justify their behavior, and lack empathy. Example of narcissistic behavior in relationships. Narcissistic behavior in romantic relationships can include any behavior that centers one person's need at the expense of someone else's, or that treats others as objects or personal gratification. When these behaviors are rare, they may cause irritation or a one-off conflict, but they do not necessarily damage the relationship permanently. For example, a person may occasionally inflate their own accomplishments to gain praise, such as exaggerating the effort they put into a romantic gesture. Use their relationship to make their others jealous via public displays or affection, or by sharing photos on social media. Get more than what is fair, such as taking advantage of their partner's willingness to do chores. However, when these behaviors are part of a pattern, they are more damaging. Narcissistic behavior becomes a more serious concern if a person uses their partner to gain status, wealth, or admiration from others, treats their partner like a servant or object only existing to serve their needs, crosses boundaries with little remorse, such as by having extramarital affairs or spending savings without asking, lies to cover up their behavior, allowing them to continue doing what they want without consequence, tells their partner they are lucky to be with them so that they are easier to manipulate, gaslight their partner so that their criticisms of the behavior seem less believable, and threatens to leave the relationship, harm themselves, or harm others to get their way. Examples in families. People with narcissistic tendencies or NPD can also behave in a similar way toward family members. For example, they may demand their relatives are obedient and cater to their needs at all times. They ignore their children's feelings and push them to achieve their parents' own goals, such as by forcing them into a particular career. make gaining their love a competition by pitting family members against one another or by choosing a favorite child to make the others jealous. Feel threatened when children gain independence, which may cause them to undermine their confidence to keep them close. Use guilt, shame, threats, or violence to get members to do what they want. And here's some ways for examples at work. Some examples of narcissistic behavior at work include routinely lying on resumes or in job interviews, seeking admiration by bragging or exaggerating achievements, deliberately taking credit for someone else's work, spreading rumors about someone a person perceives as a rival to get ahead, befriending coworkers to get something such as unpaid help with a project or a skill. As an employer or a manager, a person with narcissistic tendencies may exaggerate the business's profits or successes, see themselves as a visionary or destined for greatness, unethically cut corners, exploit people, or break the law to achieve their goals. What is the effect of the narcissistic behavior? Narcissism can seriously affect the well-being of others. It has links to, number one, mental health conditions. A 2020 study of people with close relationships to someone with narcissism found high rates of anxiety and depression. The rates were higher than for caregivers of people with other mood or personality disorders. Abuse is number two. Although people with narcissistic traits appear to have high self-esteem, it is often fragile. This means they can react angrily or violently to perceived criticism or a loss of superiority over others. This can lead to controlling behavior and abuse. And then number three, dependence. Narcissistic behavior can undermine a person's confidence or their practical ability to live independently. This can result in people staying in abusive relationships. A 2021 study found that even when people disliked a relative with narcissistic traits, they often also felt dependent on them. On a broader scale, narcissistic behavior also affects society. For example, research links this trait to lower support for democracy, increased violence against social groups a person perceives as inferior, and increased support for social hierarchies such as nationalism and white supremacy. When to seek help is the number one question. When do we go to see a doctor about this issue? People coping with the effects of narcissistic behavior can speak with a mental health professional for guidance and a safe place to talk. Therapists may be able to identify if the behavior is narcissistic or abusive and help a person stay safe. People can also contact a therapist if they have concerns about their own behavior. There are many reasons why someone might want to control their environment or the behavior of others, and they do not always stem from NPD. Speak with a professional for advice and diagnosis. Help is available if you or someone you know is in immediate danger of domestic violence. Call 911 or otherwise seek emergency help. Anyone who needs advice or support can contact the National Domestic Violence Hotline 24/7 via phone at 1-800-799-7233. You can chat at thehotline.org, or you can text LOVEIS, LOVEIS, to 22522. Many other resources are available, including helplines, in-person support, and temporary housing. People can find local resources and others classified by demographics, such as support specifically for people of color, here at the Office of Women's Health and the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence. So that is all we're going to talk about today. We have just went over examples of narcissistic behavior. There's a lot of people with this kind of attitude that you are superior and everyone else is lower and you have to look down at them. And if you think that, then there is definitely going to be a place for you in the seat to go and try and get some help. I'm not singling anyone out. I just want to find out what's going on with people these days. Talking about narcissistic behavior, and that's the topic of that we're going to be talking about for a bit, and that's going to stick with us. This is our mental health segment. Mental health is needed for all races, all people, all ages. I think we all need to have a psychiatrist, and even the psychiatrists have psychiatrists. So, you know, if they have somebody to talk to, we definitely need somebody to talk to. All right. So I bid you adieu for today, but I hope you are being blessed and being a blessing to somebody. Deuces. Bye.